and welcome. It's like a ghost town in the building this week. I sent everyone home for the holiday season. Thanksgiving is fast approaching. That's this Thursday. They're coming, you know. Are you ready for them? The in-laws are on their way. All the people that you love gathering with around the dinner table, the conversation that you look forward to all year, the people that you see once a year, the distant relatives, the cousin Eddie, the friends of friends. Maybe you're traveling to them. I don't know. If you are, be safe. But inevitably, that's coming. You're the conspiracy theorist at the table, and you'll have no shortage of content this season for your routine, so that's good. Let's see, over the weekend, I fulfilled a lot of my pagan, ritualistic holiday traditions, nearly fell off the roof and killed my damn self. I got the Christmas lights up, though. The kids are happy about that. And here I sat, virtually all alone in my suit and tie just for you, because the big story this evening is, of course, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning from Congress effective January 6, 2025. Now, it's no secret that MTG was facing massive pressure from AIPAC and, of course, other Jewish pressure groups over her criticisms of Israeli influence over American politics. She authored a bill demanding that AIPAC register as a foreign agent, kind of like President Kennedy was looking to do, you know, just before he was assassinated in broad daylight, had his brains blown out on international television in front of his citizenry. Because that is the cardinal sin. This is the cardinal sin of American politics. If you poke your neck out there and say, hey, maybe Israeli billionaires shouldn't be buying up 90% of Congress, well, then you're taking your life into your hands. And it goes without saying that you're taking your political career into your hands at the very same time. Just look at Cynthia McKinney living in exile in Bangladesh. If you start barking up the AIPAC tree, the tree that these foreign agents and traitors should hang from, then you're directly threatening Israel's ability to manipulate American policy without transparency. And if you combine MTG highlighting that along with her push to release the Epstein files, which was consistently blocked by Jewish lawmakers and Jewish political donors, because these files undoubtedly contain evidence of Israeli blackmail operations that target corporate executives and power players in our country's systems of banking and finance and academia, and of course, high-ranking American government officials going all the way up to the Oval Office, the highest rank of them all, or so we're told. You know, when we're kids going through brainwashing sessions in public schools somewhere, and then we grow up and we realize the president is fake. Just another actor, just another figurehead, another compromised pedophile who does what the Jew tells him to do. And it's obvious to anybody with a room temperature IQ that Trump is significantly implicated in these Epstein files, likely on video in the so-called Epstein tapes that Pam Bondi's DOJ has repeatedly promised it would release to the public. Let's not forget, this was one of the critical campaign promises that Trump has always made, to the extent that pedophilia was often mentioned in the CIA-authored Q drops that are responsible for signaling to the American people to just sit down and shut up, trust the plan. And speaking of the plan, did you see this? These Q drops that you have to be mentally stagnated to believe are real. Donald Trump himself is now posting QAnon goy slop online. This is how bad it's gotten. As his base has abandoned him, Trump has had to reach out to legit idiots to maintain some semblance of support among the citizenry. Because the truth is, outside of Jews and cucks and Q-tards, the only people supporting Trump are private equity oligarchs and Israelis who, by the way, are both Jews. The charade is up. Okay, the gig is up. We all know it. We see it clear as day. Thomas Massie knows it. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows it. And that's why in her resignation address to the people of Georgia's 14th congressional district and all of America, Marjorie made it very clear, very, very clear that nobody is coming to save America. There is no plan. And she offered up this written statement on her resignation. We're going to go through a lot of these points that she made, because when it comes down to it, this might be one of the more important political documents of my lifetime. This is a letter from a member of Congress, a woman who's been described as a populist, a nationalist, a MAGA extremist. And now she's telling us that the man that she devoted so many years of her life to, Donald Trump, is a fraud. And not just that, but that our entire political system is a fraud. Marjorie Taylor Greene was an ordinary person, a rich one, albeit, a business owner from North Georgia. And she made it all the way to D.C. So for years, she was able to see the system from the inside out. And when she did, she came to the stark realization that I have come to, that I have been telling you here for years, and that is, we're not voting our way out of this. and that our country has been set upon by a small but powerful group of subversives who are weaponizing the creations of our own people against us. A bunch of foreigners and subversives that are loyal to a foreign nation, and they have taken the revolutionary system of government that our ancestors created, and they have turned it against us. And Marjorie Taylor Greene knows this, and she made that very clear in her written statement, really from the moment that it first began. She wrote that, quote, Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties election cycle after election cycle in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more, and the results are always the same. End quote. The results are always the same. Let's just think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. No matter who you vote for, you're getting the same person. And why is that? Well, because both parties are funded by the very same Jews. It is what it is, okay? Both parties are funded by people like Miriam Adelson, John Paulson, Reid Hoffman, Paul Singer, the list goes on. And when they get installed as a member of Congress, their main job, outside of bringing home the bacon for Israel and using American lives to wage never-ending Jewish wars, is making sure that nothing that the American people actually want accomplished ever happens. And MTG mentioned this in her statement as well, writing that, quote, my bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census counting Americans, only to draw new districts, making English the official language of the United States, making it a felony to medically trans a minor, and other bills like eliminating capital gains taxes on the sale of your home or eliminating H-1B visas, just sit collecting dust. That's how it is for most members of Congress's bills. The Speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote. End quote. And the Speaker never brings them to the floor because the Speaker isn't supposed to bring them to the floor. He's supposed to call votes when the donor class says so, when his foreign puppeteers tell him to. And nothing more. Everything else is a charade. And that's exactly what MTG is saying in her statement. Donald Trump was elected on what millions of Americans believed was a populist America First platform, and then the rug was pulled. Everything that we were told that Trump would do, and I knew this, the entirety of the so-called Trump agenda was fake. It was propaganda. And for a long time, our people were convinced that it was real, but not anymore. MTG mentioned that as well, writing, quote, many common Americans are no longer easily convinced by paid political propaganda spokespersons and consultants on TV and paid shills on social media, obediently serving with cult-like conviction to force others to swallow the political talking points. End quote. She's right. And she's highlighting an issue that I have been addressing here since the campaign season began. I addressed it all the way up to the night that Donald Trump's so-called election in November of last year was held. He's not calling the shots. He's a slave to AIPAC. He's a slave to Jewish billionaires. He's their power bottom. And he's making sure that America as a nation is also a power bottom because Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, is bending over the barrel and taking it up the ass from these Jews. And he's letting our country be raped, just like those girls on Epstein Island. Because when you're on video blowing some dude called Bubba, you're not in control. You're compromised, and you will do what your masters say, or they will release the tapes. They will release the photographs. Like this one, which Grok claims is not made by artificial intelligence. Nobody has debunked that photograph. So think about that. The next time you're asking yourself, why would Trump ever pull the rug on the American people? Well, because that's what he was always supposed to do. Lull patriotic Americans to sleep, keep our eyes off of the prize while extreme damage is done behind the scenes. And now it's being done right out in the wide open. They don't care anymore. I can see it, Massey can see it, MTG can see it, and just like she mentioned, the American people can see it. We can all see it. Trump isn't calling the shots. He never was. He's a slave to AIPAC and to the Jewish billionaires who propelled him into office. Miriam Adelson, those that I just mentioned, and a whole lot more, no matter which side of the fake aisle these political donors claim to be on, They're all on the same team, just like the politicians themselves. They're pumping money into a system to control the outcomes. They pump the money into campaigns accordingly, and even losing campaigns, if the designated loser needs to make a big run at it, they'll give them millions of dollars only to watch them lose because they gave the other guy more money, but they win either way. These people pump limitless funds into political campaigns as the American people go without. They buy elections, they install fake politicians and pedophiles into our government, and then they use the Israeli-owned and operated American media apparatus to convince the people of our country that some sort of a democratic political process has taken place, that we've just chosen a leader to save us from the very machine that put that leader there in the first place to carry out the Israel First agenda that MTG was confronting. And of course, in all of this, MTG has been joined by Thomas Massie in highlighting the disgusting presence of Jewish dual loyalty in Congress, where Jewish politicians and Jewish-owned politicians put Israel's interests before the interests of the American people. And so, of course, MTG, just like Thomas Massie, was dubbed an anti-Semite. She refused to support unconditional aid to Israel, and her questioning of the Israeli government's actions in Gaza alienated her from the key Jewish donors that control our country's political cast of characters, the very same Jewish donors that Charlie Kirk was turning against and warning us about. And that led to his death. I mentioned JFK earlier. We all know what happened to him. We all know what happened to Charlie Kirk for taking on the very same people that MTG is now taking on. Now look, when all of this is said and done, and before I continue, I just want to make something very clear here. It's no secret that I called out MTG at AFPAC 3, not behind her back, but right to her face. I called her Marjorie Faker Green. She sat there on the front row. But my opinions of MTG have changed over the years in direct correlation to how her behavior has changed. She had to go through all of this herself. She had to see how DC operates, and once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. She couldn't remain silent. She decided that she wouldn't sell her country and her people down the river to hell in exchange for a few shekels and the promise of celebrity status in the fake system that gets propped up by a lying cast of media mouthpieces on major broadcast and cable news channels, the same Jewish-controlled media outlets and social platforms that launched smear campaigns against MTG, accusing her of being an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist, a term that's been weaponized against truth seekers to shut them up and shut them down and kick them out of polite society, because they don't want you to know what's really going on. They don't want you to know how bad things have gotten. They want you to watch TV and go to work and eat fast food. Get fat, get lazy, never push back. And that's what we're supposed to do, but we're not going to do that because the only people that can save us are ourselves. MTG told us exactly that in her farewell statement as well. She wrote that, quote, "There is no plan to save the world or insane 4D chess game being played. When the common American people finally realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machines from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it. I'll be resigning from Congress with my last day being January 5th, 2026. End quote. That about sums it all up, doesn't it? There is no plan to save the world. There is, however, a plan to destroy it, and that plan is being carried out right now as we speak in Washington, D.C. by both sides of this country's fake political aisle. The Democrat Party is fake. The Republican Party is even more fake and gay. The whole system is fake. The idea that a Democrat in your congressional district is running against or arguing with their Republican counterpart is laughable. They're all owned by the same people that own Trump, along with our country's central bank, our online social media platforms, our news and entertainment networks, so-called influencers, Hollywood, the music industry, NGOs, real estate, construction, the education system, and of course, private equity. And we can go deeper into all of that later on tonight's show, because all of this is connected. And I say all of this to highlight the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene was noticing, and these people got to her. It really is that simple. Let's just get down to brass tacks here. These people have a very well documented and lengthy history of financial pressure, blackmail, threats to family, along with the orchestrating of very public broad daylight political assassinations